Weaponizing the federal government. How fun. That's what Democrats say, anyhow. This is the topic of today's Bold and Blunt, and I am your host, Cheryl Chumley, giving you a Christian conservative look at today's news, politics, culture, and events. And if you have been watching the unfolding of the release of the long-awaited John Durham report about Russia Collusion, you know, that non-stop narrative that we heard for 3+ years before, during, and even after Donald Trump's presidency. If you've been watching that unfold and you've been reading the headlines and you've actually peered into this 300+ page report that Durham released, you will conclude, even by reading CNN headlines, by the way, that the whole Russia collusion narrative was a total fabrication of the federal authorities, the FBI, the CIA, the Democrats in leadership roles, in political roles. And that makes you wonder, geez, who's next? If Donald Trump can be witch hunted this way, what and whom is the federal government going to do and go after next? That should have every American, no matter your political affiliation, on pins and needles. And before I get into more of that, I want to quickly mention, if you like Bold and Blunt, you may get Bold and Blunt. That's right. You may actually subscribe to Bold and Blunt. You can do it wherever podcasts are offered, but you can also do it at edify.app, which is the online platform for faith-based podcasts. And when you go there to get Bold and Blunt, make sure you check out some of the other faith-based offerings that are available on that particular platform. But here's the thing. You may get Bold and Blunt delivered directly to your email box. All you have to do is go to WashingtonTimes.com, find the newsletter section, which is at the bottom of the page. Click on it. Find my newsletter, Bold and Blunt with Cheryl Chumley. Click on that. Sign up for my 3 times a week newsletter. It comes to your email box Monday, Wednesday, Friday, right? Top of the week, hump of the week, end of the week. Giving you all my commentaries that I write all week long, giving you the bullet points you need to fight off the liars in the left, the liars in the Democrat Party, not to be redundant, but liar, liar, pants on fire. That's pretty much the whole Democrat Party these days. And also in that newsletter will be my twice weekly Tuesday and Thursday podcasts. So John Durham unleashed his report on a hungering American public. But if you listen to Joy Reid and Peter Strzok, what's the big deal? John Durham may have found that, yes, indeed, the FBI violated its oath, violated its constitutional duty, used its platform to target and go after Donald Trump with the intent of destroying his political influence, his ability to lead the country, and his future political aspirations. The FBI may have done that, Durham found, but Joy Reid, Peter Strzok, nothing to see here, folks. Go home. Just another right-wing ghost, as Hillary Clinton might put it, rearing its right-wing ghostly face. Peter Strzok, if you remember, was fired from his position within the FBI in 2018 because of all the anti-Donald Trump texts that he wrote. And Joy Reid, of course, well, you know who Joy Reid is. She is that very bigoted black woman who hosts The Readout on MSNBC, and she uses her media platform to go after as many conservatives, especially white male conservatives, especially MAGA supporting conservatives, as she possibly can in her allotted news time slot. So, of course, these two get together to discuss the Durham report findings, because in MSNBC's view, who else is better equipped to give an unbiased look at these findings? So this is what Joy Reid said when she tossed the ball to Peter Strzok to pick it up and comment and give his response. She called the findings bland, B-L-A-N-D, bland, that's a quote. And then she asked, so what do you think, Peter? And then Peter says this: this is a predictable, sad ending to an investigation that never should have taken place. Well, let's just hear right from Peter himself.
This is a predictable, sad ending to an investigation that never should have taken place. Shortly after he was announced in 2019, he went on the record, as a prosecutor, making a rare public statement that he disagreed with I.G. Horowitz's conclusion that the investigation was appropriately launched. And then he spent the next 3 to 4 years with a cognitive bias trying to build a case that somehow it was. And we see the results today, and the results are clearly that he didn't come up with anything. And I think, what I make of it at the end of the day, Joy, I look at his record of 2 failed prosecutions and 1 plea that Michael Horowitz presented to him on a platter.
So that's what Peter Strzok has to say about it. And as everybody knows, Peter Strzok, as a former member of the FBI, looking into these allegations, Russia collusion, Russia collusion, Russia collusion, is definitely unbiased. He is totally to be believed. Just because he was fired, well, that means nothing. That's a mistake. And he petitioned to have his job reinstated, remember? So he thinks that he's innocent, so he must be innocent. He has absolutely no bias that clouds his judgment, no log in this man's eye at all. And certainly Joy Reid. I mean, she is the epitome of what a news hostess should be in terms of remaining above the political fray and only posing those questions that are fair and balanced, right? Yeah. Okay. So I want to quickly mention that video, the interview that you just heard, Peter Strzok and Joy Reid, came from DennisMichaelLynch.com, his website, thus the background music. It was a difficult video to find online because it hadn't been posted yet, or perhaps it's so ridiculous that every time that somebody posts it, it becomes targeted for such mocking that the poster rapidly takes it down. I don't know. Maybe YouTube's doing its covering, its normal covering up for the Democrats once again. Regardless, the bigger question here is, if there is no accountability in the end with the Durham findings, which, let's be real, conservatives in America already knew the bias was there, already knew the whole Russia collusion narrative was a total hoax, a total witch hunt, and so forth. And what this report does is it confirms all that with proof, and it also shows that other political high-powered players such as Barack Obama and yes, even Joe Biden was involved in at least the awareness angle of knowing that this kickoff of this witch hunt was based on witch hunt fabrications. So with all that in the background, for anyone, first off, in the media to call this a snorer of a report, a yawner, you're not doing your job. And second off, to dismiss it as something that, well, time to move on from. We got the report. It's unfortunate that Donald Trump was so targeted for unjustified attacks, but oh well, time to move on. New day, new year, new presidential election. That would be foolhardy because the thing is, Durham himself didn't recommend in the report that the FBI should be completely dismantled, which, hey, not a bad idea at this point, right? He didn't recommend anything other than the FBI being forced to return to its normal, traditional missions, which is based in integrity and truthfulness. But Congress has a job to do here. Congress needs to step in because if there's no accountability for the liars who did their lying, and even though they're outed for their lies, they're not apologetic about it. If there's no accountability, the lies will continue. Why would a liar change his or her lying ways if they know they can continue to get away, to get by with their lying ways? If we think that these people being outed for their lies and deceptions has so shamed them into some form of repentance, that is giving a gift to the evil. Evil doesn't get shamed. Evil doesn't get embarrassed, except maybe for a moment. And then what evil does is, instead of turning from that evil and learning a lesson, evil goes into hiding for a little bit, licks its wounds, and then reemerges from the dark corners with dug down resolve to do more evil acts, only this time be sneakier about it. Only this time look for a different way to get around the lawful way, to get by with the lies and deceptions. So no accountability, this is going to happen again. If there's not going to be any punishments for those involved with the lies that were perpetrated, not just on Donald Trump, on the American people, on the entire American public, Democrat, Republican, Independent alike. If there's not going to be any punishment for these liars, then mark these words, it's going to happen again. So what we need is, first off, a Congress that is willing to do the hard, dirty work and politically incorrect in some aspects, right? The hard work of holding the liars' feet to the fire, of demanding accountability and implementing measures that bring about consequences, accountability, punishment. We need a Congress that is bold to do that, and we need a Congress filled with people. And you know what? Who cares if they're Democrats or Republicans? I don't see a pathway for Democrats on this little bit that I'm about to mention, but hey, miracles do happen. We need a Congress that is rooted in honesty to go where the investigation leads and to take the boldness and bring it honestly to the American people and sell the case that consequences are necessary. And as I said, I don't see Democrats jumping aboard this honesty bandwagon. They should, but Democrats haven't shown any affinity, any liking for honesty in recent years. And after all, it was the Democrat playbook that wove through this entire Russia collusion lie, witch hunt, hoax, deception. But as I said, miracles do happen, and maybe some in the Democrat Party will see the errors of their way and turn toward a more truthful walk in their political offices. So, luckily, there are some in the Republican Party who are willing to take strong, principled stands for the Constitution, not just for the party, but for the Constitution. And I have one such conservative with me today. His name is Jonathan Emord. He is a lawyer, a constitutional lawyer, who has battled for years the federal agencies, the federal government. And guess what? Won many cases against the federal government. And now he is so distressed by what he is seeing in America with the political corruption, the political sellout of American exceptionalism, the corruption, the immorality that has woven into the fabric of our nation in recent years, that he is stepping outside his attorney box for a bit, and he is running for U.S. Senate in the state of Virginia, Tim Kaine's seat, and he is bringing with him a bag of tools called constitutional principle. He is going to be a fighter on Capitol Hill should he prevail in his race, in his political race. And he's somebody who I know personally for years. He's a guy of solid integrity, and he is a great communicator. He's here on Bold and Blunt to talk a little bit about his campaign and about the need to return honesty and transparency to government. Jonathan Emord, thank you so much for being on Bold and Blunt. It is really great to have you back.
Well, it's wonderful to be with you, Cheryl.
So the last couple of times we've spoken, it's been about the excellent books that you've written and also discussing your illustrious law career battling the federal government and overreach and overregulation and so forth. But now you're running for Senate in Virginia, U.S. Senate, Tim Kaine's seat. How is the campaign going?
Oh, it's going very, very well. We've been all across the state, and we continue to go across the state. We've had 3 major rallies. We're having another one coming up. 3 major rallies, Lynchburg, and then Glen Allen, Virginia, and then Leesburg. And very large crowds. really strong reception to our message, and a lot of people are committing themselves to our candidacy early. So it's an extraordinarily powerful campaign, and people are just fed up. They're sick of the whole woke indoctrination of their children in schools and in the military, and they really despise something you know well from writing about it, which is the entire movement towards making America a socialist state and destroying all of the limitations on power that the Constitution provides, essentially destroying the whole Constitution. So people are on to this. They're very upset about it, and they want someone who will do something about it. And the reason why I got into this is I really do believe that within the next 2 to 3 years, if we don't fundamentally change the direction of our nation back to its founding principles, we will see an end to our republic and an establishment of essentially a socialist dictatorship. So I hear those alarm bells ringing in my head. I've written about it for years, and I decided that it really was essential for people who are righteous and who are interested in saving our country to get involved. And having told many other people that over the years, I decided I needed to take my own medicine. So I've jumped in, and knock on wood, it has been very, very successful. We've had television advertising on Fox around the Fox and Friends morning hour, and also around the 8 p.m. Time slot in every city, town, and county in Virginia for a week about a week ago. And it's, the response has been overwhelming, really.
And I'm glad that you called a minute ago this country a republic and not a democracy, like so many in politics seem to want to refer to America. And it's that theme that I want to address next, that you have a solid basis in standing strong on constitutional principle. And when I say that, I mean limited government aspects of constitutional principle. And I think your message right now, as well as your proven history on standing on this principle, it's a message that is resonating among American voters right now, because they must be so sick of a government that is going far beyond what the founding fathers envisioned for our government.
Yes, I think it's probably something that is not remarkable to your listeners, but the overwhelming majority of Americans believe in the American ideal. They believe in the principles articulated in the Declaration of Independence that really do define what it means to be an American. That second paragraph, that all men are created equal and endowed by their Creator with unalienable rights to life, to liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, among others, and that governments are instituted among men to protect the rights of the governed. That's the very purpose of our government. And that just governments derive their powers from the consent of the governed. These foundational principles are really under assault. And so I like to talk, when I talk to audiences, about the three S's, really: safety, security, and sovereignty. All three of these things now are being assaulted by the government of the Biden administration and the Democrat leadership in the Senate. It's a stark contrast with the old Democrat Party. The old Democrat Party had danced with socialism and would offer grandiose proposals that would head in that direction, but they didn't overtly reject our foundational principles. They didn't overtly reject the structure of our government, the republic. But now, in stark contrast to the past, they are. They are directly attacking lives, liberties, and property by opening the borders. They have rendered American citizens third-class citizens, and they've elevated illegal entrance into the country into first-class status. They've caused massive division, unable to divide us based on economics because of the extraordinary power of capitalism to create upward mobility in this country. They latched onto a concept that worked for them, and that is to divide people based on race. We had largely extinguished racism in the United States through the Civil Rights era, but they've revived it, and now their sole focus in the schools is to teach our children to look at one another based on their race, not on the content of their characters. The Martin Luther King distinction that he elevated, we are now seeing traduced by these people who are Marxists, and so they use race as the dividing means to create a basis for revolution. And it's a shocking reality just how successful they have been, with surveys indicating that upwards of 65% of youth would not defend the country if it were attacked. These are the elements of destruction that they wished to have come to full fruition, and we have got to stop it. We have got to act against it. And I have a very specific legislative agenda to achieve that end.
And one of the ways that the left has been so successful about drumming up the idea of racism has been on the border, on border issues, which I would like you to address. Specifically, I know that you are in favor of law and order and border control, but what can one voice, one senator do on Capitol Hill to reel back the damage that Joe Biden is unleashing as we speak?
One of the first things I'll do is introduce legislation to accomplish a defense of the border in this respect. First of all, we can't count on Homeland Security to defend the border. We now have several layers thick of ideological far leftists who are in Homeland Security, not just Alejandro Mayorkas, who's an utter disaster and a purposeful violator of the immigration laws to our ruin, but several layers thick, all political appointees throughout DHS. So we shouldn't be funding DHS. What we should instead do, and this is what I'll introduce, legislation that will cause block grants to be given to border states that will defend the states. Those border states are in sore need of the resources to defend their states, and I will invoke Article 1, Section 10 of the Constitution, known as the State Self-Defense Clause, specifically authorizing those border states with the funding to hire more National Guard, substantially more, tripling the number of National Guard, and state police for the express purpose of defending the border and for the purpose of arresting, incarcerating, and then ejecting from the United States any illegal entrants, invoking Article 1, Section 10, which allows the states to actually have war power in the event of an invasion of the states. Then the other thing I'll do is complete border wall construction legislation to achieve that end. And the third thing, which is very, very important, is to introduce legislation that will amend the immigration laws so that all asylum seekers would have to seek asylum only through their country of origin, U.S. Embassy in their country of origin. And all hearings related to their status as asylum seekers would be conducted in the embassies of those foreign states, not in the United States. And the law will also make it a permanent exclusion for anyone who attempts to enter the United States and seek asylum. So this would help shut down the demand and reverse the course. We also have to address the issue of all of these benefits that they are gratuitously giving illegal immigrants, and those need to be cut off. So there are a number of steps we can take which would solve this problem. And it's not only restoring Trump's Remain in Mexico policy, it really requires much, much more now, because we have this massive infusion of people, sex trafficking, drug trafficking, MS-13, 18th Street gangs, terrorists, Chinese nationals who are likely spies, enormous number of people coming in that mean to do us ill will. And of course, all of them are being vetted by not the United States at all, but by those who the Biden administration have turned over immigration policy to, which are the criminal cartels. And they are terrorist organizations. They mean to destroy us. They're feeding fentanyl into the United States in such massive amounts. There are some 5,000 people a day dying even in Virginia from fentanyl overdose, and there are over 130,000 that 5,000 a month, and there are over 130,000 in the United States that died last year, and we anticipate that number may go up as much as 60% in the coming year. So we're talking about total ruination. And all of those people whose properties have been looted and who have suffered criminal trespass and who have had their businesses overwhelmed and robbed and their homes invaded and rapes and murders, and I mean the list of crimes that are stemming from this utter absence of defense of the border is astonishing. And then when you realize that over 15 million people are here illegally, not a single one of them has been asked to pledge allegiance to the United States, to understand the founding principles of this country, to reject allegiance to their the countries they come from, or in any other respect show that they are willing to be functional citizens of the United States and defend this nation. So, I mean, this is a turnover of our country to foreign control.
It is, and you paint a grim picture, and it goes toward what you said a few minutes ago, that you predicted this country maybe has another 3 or 4 years going on the same path it's on without crumbling. I actually think that number is a bit optimistic. I see maybe 2 years, the remainder of Joe Biden's administration, because of the border issue, but also because we have so many cultural attacks too.
Right, I did say 2 to 3 years, and I'm in agreement with you. I think it's coming on rapidly, and what people need to realize is that when this thing builds to the breaking point, the destructive effects you will realize overnight. In other words, you're seeing it build and build and build, but all of a sudden, you're going to see how difficult it is to take out a loan, how difficult it is to acquire a fossil fuel using vehicle, how difficult it is to do anything economically and to survive. And this is what we're really heading towards with a vengeance. Once this full climate change agenda is implemented to destroy the entire fossil fuel industry in the United States, that will destroy the economy. It will completely destroy the economy. The backbone of the American economy is fossil fuels, and it will also destroy our national defense. We will become essentially a weak international power, incapable of defending our own interests around the world and our own interests at home.
Absolutely. And there's one more issue I wanted you to address before we wrap up here, because speaking to the cultural battles that we're fighting, what can you do and what would you do to reel back this transgender insanity that is destroying the moral compass of our youth, of our nation?
Well, the very first thing I'll do as Virginia's United States Senator is introduce legislation to make it a federal felony for anyone to aid or cause the transitioning of anyone under the age of 18. And the second thing I will do is introduce legislation to enforce the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment and the Civil Rights laws against those institutions that receive federal funding, including all public schools and the military, departments of the military, and require that each of them be audited to determine whether or not they are violating the Equal Protection Clause by advancing racism, stigmatizing people based on race, separating them based on race, giving them benefits, or assigning them detriments based on race. And this would destroy the critical race theory movement in the schools, because they would be under this auditing system. If they were found to have engaged in those practices, they would be cut off of all federal funding. And so the military and the schools and all of these things would discontinue it, except in the most extreme instances where they would not only be cut off from federal funding but also prosecuted. The third part of this legislation would involve referrals for prosecution and follow-up with required testimony before Congress by the Attorney General explaining the acts that have been undertaken by Justice to enforce the provisions of the Equal Protection Clause and the Civil Rights Acts against these parties. And so we have to get serious. We have to cut off money. We have to really go after these things. And the ultimate solution to this, we have to have true school choice. Because if parents can take their kids out of these wretched institutions and take the money with them and go to whatever institution they want or homeschool them or otherwise give them an education in micro schools of one kind or another, they will be able to save their children from this Marxist indoctrination and from this trans movement and this whole ridiculous entry of biological males into girls' sports and women's sports, all of which needs to be cut off. In addition, with an amendment to Title IX, there was an attempt to do that with the Women and Girls Sports Act that passed the House and died in the Senate, opposed principally by Tim Kaine, who said that he said the very week I was hearing it all across the state how important it was to protect girls and women's sports. He said, I've been all across the state. I haven't heard a word about that, so it's not important. It's not an issue. He wouldn't address it directly because then that would get him into political trouble. So he's the artful dodger. He very much likes to dodge political controversy with non-answers like that's not an issue. He also said that critical race theory in Virginia was not an issue. That wasn't happening in Virginia schools, which was just outrageous.
Jonathan, you have some bold and very interesting ideas on how to solve some of the biggest problems that concern the average American, not the political bureaucrats, but the average American, the average Virginian. How can people find out more about your campaign and maybe attend some of your events?
So emord4va.com is the web address, and there you can find out about our campaign and also upcoming events. And the address emord4va.com can also lead you to really a number of things that you wouldn't ordinarily expect to see from a quote-unquote politician, because I'm not a politician. I'm doing this to save my country, and then I'm getting out of that swamp as soon as I've accomplished the objective. But the point is I give a full list of all of my positions on the issues, and I explain exactly what I'm going to do. And I think that's what voters are entitled to receive, and it's resonating extremely well. People are sick of being lied to and of being misled and of having politicians who have virtually nothing in their craniums other than platitudes that they've memorized. Time for real change.
And that's Emord, spelled E-M-O-R-D. I want to thank you, Jonathan Emord, for your time on Bold and Blunt, and best of luck going forward with the campaign.
Well, thank you so much, Cheryl, and thank you for everything you do.
Jonathan Emord, Emord for Virginia, EMORDFORVA.com. I have known Jonathan for years and years, and he's not only a stand-up guy, he is an honest guy, which, geez, that makes him sort of an anomaly in modern-day politics. Check out Bold and Blunt at edify.app, the online platform for your faith-based podcast, at Washington Times, of course, WashingtonTimes.com, that is, and wherever podcasts are offered. I want to thank you if you are a Bold and Blunt subscriber. Really appreciate it. And remind you, tune in next time. And in the meanwhile, stay blunt, stay bold.